Welcome back to the Wisdom Within podcast. I'm Lara Jaye, and I'm so excited you are here joining me today. We have a very interesting topic, and one of the things that I feel called to do is to put words to experiences or things that maybe you're feeling that maybe that you haven't been able to put words to for yourself. And today we're going to do that. There is a particular kind of emptiness that doesn't come from loss, and it doesn't come from failure. It doesn't come from things falling apart. It actually shows up after your success, after you look successful on paper, after competence, after you've built that life that actually on paper should feel so incredibly satisfying. And because nothing is technically wrong, this emptiness is often the hardest to name because you're functioning, you're capable, you're respected, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I don't like that word, but if I had to use it, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and yet something feels off. So if you've ever thought, is this it? Why doesn't this feel the way I thought it would? This conversation is for you. We're talking about the emptiness that no one talks about. I want to be clear on who I'm speaking to today. This is for those high impact, high achievers, the leaders, the influencers, men and women who go, often have either lead the masses, people who are visible, they're relied upon. I always say all eyes are on you. You're looking for direction, stability, and strength. And from the outside looking in, your life probably looks very successful. But inside you, something feels off. Maybe even the word disconnected. You might even feel disconnected. What used to work for you, what used to motivate you, excite you, drive you, it just doesn't anymore. It just doesn't fit. You might think you want clarity about what's next in your life, but beneath that, you're longing for true alignment, direction that rises from your soul, not just your mind. And you might also think you want a better relationship, but what you really crave are healthier patterns, clearer boundaries, and deeper intimacy that doesn't cost you your peace. You might also think you want peace of mind, but what your system truly needs is a regulated nervous system, an inner world that finally feels safe enough to relax, to exhale. You might also think you want spiritual connection, but your soul is asking for more than concepts. You're craving frequency, a felt experience of the divine in your body, not just in your head. You might want your spark back, but what's actually missing is emotional intimacy, inner safety, and embodied vitality, where your joy, all of that feels real again, where you can feel alive again. And somewhere, quietly inside, there's this question that you keep whispering to yourself. Is this really all there is? Is this really all there is? When this feeling shows up, most people don't recognize it as a signal. It's a signal to actually look within. Instead, we're taught to interpret it as boredom, lack of gratitude, you're not being thankful enough, restlessness, or even worse for many of us who are doers, personal failure. So what happens when we feel this way? We respond the only way we know how, and that is what? To do more, to optimize, to refine, to set new goals, to push ourselves to exhaustion. This particular emptiness doesn't respond to effort. That's the issue. In fact, effort often makes it worse. So because the emptiness isn't about what you're doing, it's about what you've learned to leave behind in order to succeed. So here's the reframe. what you're experiencing isn't true emptiness. It's actually the opposite, over-fullness. Your inner world is so crowded with years of responsibility, crowded with survival strategies that once kept you safe, crowded with identities that you had to build in order to succeed. There is very little room left inside of your own psyche. And when there's no space, there's no room for joy. There's no room for connection. God cannot move freely. Love can't settle. So what feels like emptiness is often your nervous system screaming, there's no more room for life to meet me. And how this pattern forms, we've learned it very early, often without even realizing it, that being competent created safety. Being useful earned approval, and being composed, it prevented disruption. So many of you were rewarded for being emotionally self-sufficient, responsible beyond your years, the strong one, the one who didn't need much. I know I was rewarded for that growing up in a family of alcoholics. And over time, something subtly happened. Our nervous system, your nervous system possibly, learned that feeling deeply wasn't necessary for survival, but functioning well was. So aliveness was quietly traded for stability, presence for performance, truth for manageability, not consciously, of course, not dramatically, just gradually. So here's why success doesn't fix this. The part that most people don't understand is that success doesn't heal this feeling, this overfullness, this emptiness. It often conceals it, because success reinforces the very pattern that created the disconnection in the first place. You're rewarded for staying composed, pushing through, producing results, remaining emotionally contained. From the outside, life looks good, and from the inside, something feels distant. It's not broken, just you're unreachable. This isn't depression. It's not a crisis. This distinction matters. What many high achievers are experiencing is nervous system adaptation. Your system learned how to function at this high level, but not how to receive life. And when receiving isn't safe, fulfillment can't land. We can't have joy. Joy can be present, but it doesn't stay. We can have connection for a few, but it doesn't settle. Meaning appears and it is fleeting. So this sense of emptiness remains. So why this feels so hard to name it is because there's nothing obvious to fix. You're not falling apart. You're not failing. You're not lost. You're simply disconnected from a part of yourself that was never prioritized. And naming that feels risky, because once you name it, you can't unsee it. When emotions are constantly deprioritized, they don't disappear. They move underground into the psyche, into the body. And over time, this creates a kind of internal congestion, not total numbness, but selective access, shall I say. There's so much being carried internally that only the most urgent emotions get through. Responsibility, pressure, concern, vigilance. While the subtler states like delight, softness, longing, reverence, receiving, they all become harder to access. Not because they're gone, but because there's no room for them to land. Some people assume the solution is rest, but rest alone doesn't resolve this feeling if the system doesn't know how to receive rest. You can take time off and still feel flat. You can slow down and feel restless. You can stop striving and feel very disoriented. The issue isn't exhaustion. It's a lack of inner spaciousness. little bit ago, I got off the phone with a client who was taking some time off for the holidays. She was taking this time off from work and really did not know what to do with herself. She had all of this free time and her spouse wasn't available to play. So even for today, for a few hours, she was very unnerved and very restless. And all of a sudden I have this giant space of time and I don't have to be on. What am I going to do? And it created even more stress actually in her body while she was trying to figure out, where do I go? What do I do today with this space of time? A different way to understand what's happening, and here's a reframe. The emptiness, it's not a problem. It's an invitation to create space, not to do more, not to fix yourself, not to reinvent your life overnight, but to notice where your inner world stopped being included in your definition of success. I know this pattern intimately, not just from the people I work with, but from my own life. I learned how to function, lead, succeed, and stay composed long before I learned how to feel safe receiving life. And for a long time, I didn't even know what I was missing. I just knew something felt muted, something felt off. And that honest recognition, it was gentle, it was unforced, is when and where everything for me began to shift. And this conversation is so important right now. At the end of the year, this feeling often becomes louder. The distractions slow, the momentum pauses, the questions surface. Many people have this extra time off now, but they're feeling pressure. They're feeling pressure to figure things out. And I want to offer something different to you. You don't need all the answers. You need honest noticing or gentle awareness. So here's the question you might sit with, not to solve, just to observe. Where in my life am I functioning well, but not fully present? No judgment, no urgency, just awareness. And sitting with that alone begins to create this amazing space in your body. One of the things that happens to me when I notice that I am what I call over full is I'll be sitting in my house and all of a sudden have a desire to clean a room or clean a drawer or get rid of a bunch of things. What happens is there's something energetically in my body that is speaking to me, pinging me that you are over full. It's time to process this. It's time to move this out. And one of the ways I do that is by walking around my house, cleaning out drawers, cleaning out rooms, taking loads to Goodwill. That is one of the ways, in addition to meditating and tuning in, is I began to walk around my physical space, my physical house, and realize where I'm not in alignment anymore. So once we do it spiritually, and once we do it energetically, it shows up in the physical, in walking around the house and going through the drawers and going through the different rooms and making the room more in alignment with who we are. And that's kind of a fun way that I actually notice when if I haven't had a meditation in a few days, or if I'm feeling off, I begin to tune into what room in the house or where in the house. So sometimes you have to start physically in order to get the spiritual work done. And other times you start spiritually and energetically, and then it shows up in the physical. As above, so below. In the coming months on the Wisdom Within podcast, we're going to explore this even deeper, like what lives underneath this overfullness, how these patterns shape it, how our generational patterns show up, how the nervous system learns safety beyond performance, and how fulfillment integrates. But for now, this moment is enough. Naming it is powerful. Recognizing it matters. Just know you're not behind. You're not broken. You didn't fail. You're not alone in this experience. You're standing at the edge of a deeper conversation with yourself. And that's what this work is. I invite you to join me for a light language closing to open a little bit more space in your psyche. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Allow yourself to release anything you no longer need. Kolemo tejo jela prembe to remondo jelita da barateria pugle preuso kole botama kam. Lemote jela tele prekale bomando de diateriondo jela plemode endaria kele propogle mote jela lama. Zebonde jela tele prabeti andario to jela wam. Kaloto da maliondo jela malio polemote jela blabrianga. Zebonde jela tele pomariandaria cariandario corribio to re loboga corribis le moam. Zeondo jelete la prebeglio coriander dodo di ante io coramario show. Lemo carioto geleti ondo de ondo de dioto gelapawam. Kelopo, zeondo gelete la parapariander yuto gelawam. Leoto gelete la parapo de ondo de jacala paramete diata. Leondo gelete la plebetioto gelete le coriander di auto gelete la parayamocan. Que lo porabiuto gelete le paraparianda de yundo gelete la branco, ze ondo gelete le pelicodi di gelata clea pocolamo. Que loto, que le shakwa. Kyoto. Deep breath in. Breathe out. Come back to this now moment, this body awareness. And I hope you all have a fantastic weekend.